Hey everyone. Welcome to Six Path Weeb. I'm excited to have you here on my channel. Today, we're diving into an epic fanfic crossover, Naruko featured in the world of fairy tale. Get ready for action, emotion, and some wild twists as universes collide. Disclaimer, this content is made purely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not own any of the anime footage used, full credit goes to the original creators and copyright holders. Alright, let's jump in. Run. Run for your future. Run until you find hope. Run to embrace something brighter. Naruko. In the misty woods surrounding Konoha, a small 5-year-old girl with sun-kissed blonde hair sprinted through the forest. Her blue shorts and white t-shirt were soaked by the heavy rain pouring from the cloudy sky. Behind her, a group of angry villagers gave chase, misunderstanding what they could not see, what had been placed within her at birth. Inside Naruko's young body resided the Kyubi no Yuki, a powerful mystical being. Though the fourth Hokage had sealed the creature to protect the village, the villagers unfairly directed their fear and frustration at her. Despite the third Hokage's efforts to shield her from harm, it hadn't been enough. So she ran. Why do they dislike me? I haven't done anything wrong. I wish my parents were here. Thought the lonely girl, her tears mixing with the rain. She couldn't see well through the downpour and stumbled over a root, falling to the wet ground. The crowd began to close in. Naruko squeezed her eyes shut, bracing herself for what was to come. Goodbye, Gigi, she whispered, thinking of her kind-hearted guardian, the Hokage. Suddenly, a radiant light surrounded her. Warmth embraced her, and she felt herself float gently through space, light and peaceful. She opened her bright blue eyes and saw a graceful woman with flowing brown hair and a white gown standing before her, glowing with serene energy. Sweet Naruko, I'm so glad you are safe, the woman said gently. Who are you? Is this a dream? Naruko asked, her voice filled with wonder. The woman chuckled softly. My name is Kami. No, you're not dreaming. I've been watching over you since you were born. I've seen your strength, your kindness, and how you've endured. You deserve a life filled with friendship, love, and peace. The burden you once carried has now been lifted. Naruko's eyes widened. What do I have to do? Just take my hand, Kami replied kindly. You'll be transported to a new world, one filled with magic instead of chakra. A fresh start, Naruko-chan. Will you accept this new path? The young girl hesitated, then saw images of two people, kind, loving faces, placing their hands on her shoulders. She felt warmth. Love. What she had missed her whole life. With a soft smile, she reached out and took Kami's hand. Good luck, Naruko. Follow your heart, and never stop striving for what's right. As Kami faded, Naruko descended gently toward the earth. Her vision dimmed. Time passed. When Naruko opened her eyes again, she was high in a vast mountain range. The sun shone brightly in the sky, and the wind howled through rocky peaks. She turned toward a low rumble coming from a dark cave. A pair of glowing red eyes peered out from the shadows. Who stands at the entrance of my home? Rumbled a deep voice. I'm Naruko Uzumaki. I don't know how I got here. Where am I? She asked politely. The eyes came forward, revealing a magnificent golden-scaled dragon who towered above her, his wings partially folded. You are in Earthland, young one. I am Tetsu, the dragon of lightning. I sense a great light within you. I will teach you a special kind of magic, dragon slayer magic. Naruko remembered Kami's words, this was a land of magic. What do I need to do? She asked, curiosity in her voice. To make a promise, Tetsu replied, his eyes calm. To protect the innocent, defend those in need, and always walk the path of kindness and justice. Naruko nodded and knelt before him with sincere determination. I promise, Tetsu-sensei. I'll become the next lightning dragon slayer. Tetsu smiled gently. Then your journey begins, my student. And so it did. For the next 7 years, Tetsu trained Naruko in the powerful ways of dragon slayer magic. She learned not only how to harness the energy of the dragon, but also mastered other magical arts, runic magic, binding spells, graceful swordplay, and even a specialized form of spell casting known as gun magic. Under her mentor's watchful eye, Naruko grew stronger every day. Her body became agile and toned, her combat skills graceful and swift. Her golden hair grew longer, framing her confident face, and her blue eyes now glimmered with a spark of yellow, proof of her growing magical strength. Tetsu watched his student with pride. She trained in a field beneath the open sky, doing chin-ups on a tall tree branch. When he called to her, she gracefully landed before him. You called, Sensei? Yes, Naruko, the great dragon said gently. You've completed your training. To mark this moment, I have one final gift for you. From his powerful claws, Tetsu revealed a beautiful katana. The handle was wrapped in blue silk, the guard carved like a lightning bolt, the scabbard detailed with elegant designs. Naruko's eyes sparkled. It's beautiful, Sensei. This blade will serve you well. Wield it with honor, and remember all that you've learned. Naruko held the katana close, her heart full of gratitude and determination. A new chapter awaited her, one of adventure, friendship, and the light she was destined to share with the world. Tetsu smiled warmly. I offer this to you as my final gift, Naruko. You have embraced all of my teachings and surpassed every expectation. This sword is a symbol of your dedication and accomplishments. Naruko gently reached for the sword and drew the blade from its sheath, her eyes widening in admiration. The craftsmanship was exquisite, a true masterpiece. Sensei. I don't know what to say, Naruko whispered, her voice filled with emotion at the dragon's heartfelt gesture. Tetsu's expression softened. Naruko, my dear child, you have been the brightest light in my long journey. You are my greatest student and my proudest legacy. You have truly earned this. Moved beyond words, Naruko stepped forward and embraced her foster father. His scaled arms wrapped protectively around her. That evening, they sat by the fire and shared a peaceful meal, laughter echoing into the night under the starlit sky. As the moon shone high and bright, Tetsu quietly rose. He looked one last time at his beloved student, peacefully resting in her tent. With a deep, silent breath, he opened his great wings and took flight into the night, drawn by the mysterious call of distant lands. Though his heart ached, he knew it was time. Tears sparkled gently in his eyes, catching the moonlight like tiny stars. The next morning, Naruko awoke to find the camp quiet and still. Clutching the sword close, she stepped out into the sunlight. Tetsu-sensei? She called, though no answer came. Realizing her father had quietly departed in the night, Naruko looked down at the blade, the final gift from her cherished mentor. I promise, Sensei. I will do my best to bring fairness and kindness to others, and protect those who cannot protect themselves, she vowed, lifting her gaze to the clear blue sky. Thank you, Father. With a steady heart, Naruko packed her belongings and set off, her path leading into the unknown lands of Earthland. What adventures awaited her remained a mystery, but one truth guided her every step: she would honor everything her father had taught her. To strive for greatness as a protector of peace and justice. Look out, Earthland. A new dragon slayer had arrived. The kingdom of Fiore, located in the westernmost part of Earthland, is home to over 17 million people. Ruled by the king of Fiore, the nation thrives under his governance and the regulation of magic enforced by the Magic Council and their protectors, the Rune Knights. Surrounded by sea on three sides and bordered by land to the east, Fiore is a scenic land of green fields, rugged mountains, vast deserts, and vibrant cities and towns. On one such peaceful day, a dusty trail weaving through a sun-drenched field was being walked by a cheerful young girl. Her blonde hair shimmered in the sunlight as she whistled a light-hearted tune on her way to the next town. Her name was Naruko Uzumaki, a traveling mage with a spirit as bright as her blue eyes. It had been a month since her mentor and foster guardian, Tetsu, had mysteriously vanished. Since then, Naruko had journeyed across Fiore, accepting missions from village leaders wherever help was needed. Her appearance had changed a bit since Tetsu's disappearance. She now wore her blonde hair in a short, spiky style and dressed in black combat boots, durable trousers, a crisp white t-shirt, and a knee-length white leather jacket. Around each leg, holsters held two gleaming silver guns, gifts from a generous gunsmith she had met during her training. She recalled Tetsu's advice the day she received them. Naruko, never rely on just one type of magic. Think of it like preparing for anything. Your enemies may use different powers, and you must always be ready. Naruko stepped into a small, bustling merchant town called Rose Town, taking in the warm atmosphere and the cheerful chatter of vendors and townsfolk. Her destination was the town's central building, a modest, wooden structure at the heart of the settlement. She walked up the steps and gently knocked on the door. An elderly man in ceremonial robes with a kind face and a white beard answered. Can I help you, young lady? He asked kindly. Naruko bowed politely. Yes, my name is Naruko Uzumaki. I'm a traveling mage, and I was wondering if your town is in need of assistance. The man's smile deepened. Please, come in. We do have a matter you might be able to help us with. Inside, the room felt welcoming and warm, with wooden walls lined with bookshelves and framed photos. The man took a seat behind a simple desk. "My name is Akira, and I'm the mayor of Rose Town," he began. "2 days ago, my guards reported seeing a wyvern nesting in the forest east of here. We're worried it may pose a threat to our community. If you're willing to help, I can offer a generous reward." Naruko nodded firmly. "Of course, Akira-sama. I'll take care of the situation and bring back proof once it's done." The mayor studied her for a moment, concern softening his expression. "Are you certain, Naruko-san? A wyvern is no small challenge." Naruko gave a respectful nod. "I've trained in magic since I was 5. I'm confident I can complete this mission for you." "Very well. Good luck, young lady," Akira said as she turned to leave. Naruko departed Rose Town and ventured toward the eastern forest. Wyverns, known for their emerald scales, powerful wings, and sharp claws, can become a danger when too close to populated areas. Naruko stayed alert, every sense focused as she traveled deeper into the dense woods. Eventually, she reached a clearing bathed in golden light. Without warning, a massive shadow burst through the treetops and landed with a thunderous crash. An enormous green wyvern had appeared. Naruko quickly rolled out of the way, positioning herself behind a tree. She closed her eyes and centered herself, calling upon everything Tetsu had ever taught her. "Naruko, always stay focused. Let your strength be a beacon of hope for those who cannot protect themselves." Smiling with determination, Naruko stepped into the clearing and inhaled deeply as a glowing magic circle formed before her lips. Lightning Dragon's Roar. A beam of crackling lightning surged from her mouth and struck the wyvern's chest, staggering it. The creature roared in frustration and charged toward her. Naruko dodged skillfully, then soared into the air, energy gathering around her fist. Lightning Dragon's Brick Break. Her lightning-infused punch connected with the wyvern's jaw, sending it stumbling. Without pausing, Naruko followed with another powerful technique. Lightning Dragon's Storm Blast. The burst of energy enveloped the beast, which shielded itself with its wings. Emerging from the attack, the wyvern lunged and struck Naruko with a surprise swipe, sending her flying. She twisted midair and rebounded off a tree, launching herself straight back at her opponent. The wyvern opened its jaws, aiming to trap her. With energy crackling around her and a magical seal forming ahead, she shouted her final spell. Lightning Dragon's Thunderbolt. The creature closed its jaws, believing it had captured her, only for the clearing to erupt with energy. Naruko emerged safely from the other side of the beast, landing gracefully on the grass. The wyvern, overwhelmed by the blast, collapsed and lay still. "Ugh. That was messy," Naruko muttered as she shook off the sticky remains on her clothes. She approached the wyvern and removed one of its large, curved horns as proof of success. Back in Rose Town, she returned to the mayor's office and placed the horn gently by his desk. "The wyvern's no longer a threat, Akira-sama," Naruko said with a smile. "Thank you, Naruko-san," the elderly man said, visibly relieved. "You've done our town a great service." He placed a bag of jewels on the desk. "Please accept this as your payment." Naruko nodded and placed the bag inside her jacket. "I'd also appreciate a place to rest. I'd like to clean up after that adventure." "Of course. We have a wonderful lodge nearby. Just tell them I sent you," said Akira, clapping her gently on the shoulder. Soon after, Naruko arrived at the lodge, a cozy 3-story inn, and greeted the receptionist, a young woman with purple hair. "Good afternoon, how can I help you?" "Hello," Akira-sama said. "I could stay the night," Naruko replied. "Ah, yes. Your room is ready. Please enjoy your stay, Naruko-san," the receptionist said, handing her a key. Naruko thanked her and headed up to her room, which was warm and inviting, with polished wooden floors, clean white sheets, and a sparkling bathroom. She set down her gear, removed her travel-stained clothes, and stepped into the steaming shower, sighing in relief as the water washed away the fatigue and dust. As the water cascaded over her, Naruko thought back to her training, how she had once faced a wyvern under Tetsu's guidance. It had been one of the hardest challenges of her life, but it had taught her valuable lessons about patience, perseverance, and compassion. Tetsu had always emphasized the importance of respecting all magical creatures. "I wonder where you are now, Tetsu-sensei," she thought quietly. After her shower, Naruko dried off, wrapped herself in a warm towel, and sank into the bed, the softness pulling her quickly into sleep. She found herself in a dreamlike space, a vast black void filled with silence. Then a powerful voice echoed through the darkness. "So you have come, Dragon Slayer." Naruko looked around. "Who's there?" she called. The mysterious voice echoed with a calm yet eerie amusement. I've been observing you, Dragon Slayer. You won't be able to stop me. Eventually, you will face me. And you will stand before me. I won't bow to anyone. Show yourself, shouted Naruko, her determination unwavering. In due time, Dragon Slayer. In due time, the voice concluded, fading into the shadows. Suddenly, Naruko was overwhelmed by vivid visions, images of hardship, struggle, and oppression. Men, women, and children toiling in captivity, forced to construct a towering dark structure under the command of guards branded with the emblem of the Dark Mage Zeref, an ancient and corrupt force. Dark magic. Naruko's eyes flew open as she jolted upright in bed. Sunlight streamed in through her window as dawn broke over the horizon. Her breathing was rapid, and a light layer of perspiration covered her skin. The dream had felt so real, like a wave of darkness had surged through her spirit. She had felt the anguish of those imprisoned souls deep within her heart. She couldn't ignore it. She had to help them. Without hesitation, Naruko leapt from bed and quickly dressed, her resolve burning stronger than ever. She rushed through the quiet streets of the village and beyond its borders, heading west. The lingering sensation from her dream guided her. It was the same energy, the same dark presence that had reached out to her while she slept. I'm coming for you, Naruko thought, sprinting across the sunlit fields beyond the town, running toward the unknown. What lay ahead would shape her destiny in ways she could never have imagined. Feet tapped quickly against the rocky path as a figure darted across the rugged terrain, urgency pushing her forward. Naruko's muscles ached with the strain of travel, her energy running low, but she pressed on, guided by a strong sense that something wasn't right. A strange, heavy atmosphere hung in the air, like a dark cloud lingering over her thoughts. She had journeyed far, past the borders of Fiore and into the Kylum Kingdom, following the trail of an unsettling magical presence. Finally, she came to a halt, her sandals skidding slightly on the dirt. Breathing heavily, Naruko placed her hands on her hips, her cerulean eyes scanning the darkened sky. She was exhausted. Her magical energy had fueled her for 2 days straight, but even her determination had its limits. Taking a few careful steps forward, Naruko crouched beside a rocky outcrop overlooking a quiet shoreline. Just beyond the beach, an island rose from the sea, with a towering structure that disappeared into the low-hanging clouds. From where she stood, she could feel the energy, heavy and sorrowful, flowing from that tower. It wasn't just a building. It was a place filled with fear, and she could sense the suffering of those inside. She knew she had to help. Well, what do we have here? Came a deep voice behind her. Startled, Naruko turned, only to feel a sudden blow knock her off balance. Too drained to react quickly, she collapsed to the ground. A tall figure with strong arms and a masked face stepped forward, lifting her effortlessly and placing her over his shoulder. Oi, Meiji. What did you find? Called a thin man from a small rowboat nearby, loaded with crates. A rather curious guest, Meiji replied, setting Naruko gently into the boat. Seems like we've got ourselves an unexpected visitor. Well, the leader is always looking for new workers. She might be useful, said the skinny man, finishing the last of the packing. Let's go. We're already behind. With that, the boat was pushed into the water, and the two men climbed in, rowing toward the island. Naruko, dazed and struggling to stay awake, felt herself being carried through a hallway. Her legs were restrained, and everything around her felt like a blur. A door creaked open, and she was carefully set down inside a dim room before the door closed with a quiet thud. Dragging herself slowly to the far side of the cell, Naruko leaned against the wall. Her body protested with every movement. She reached up to gently touch her face where she'd been hit, wincing slightly. She made a silent promise to herself, next time, she'd be ready. Well, Naruko, what now? She thought, her inner voice slightly amused despite her situation. This definitely wasn't part of her plan. But maybe, just maybe, being captured would bring her closer to discovering what was going on. Whatever was drawing her here, it wasn't finished yet. She would wait for the right moment to act. For now, she needed rest. The time would come when she could help the others trapped here. The next morning, Naruko was gently roused and led from her cell. She didn't resist, pretending to be more worn out than she actually was. Her white jacket and tools had been taken, leaving her in her weathered boots, dark pants, and a now dirt-smudged shirt. She was brought into a wide chamber inside the tower, filled with people of all ages, all quietly working with tools and materials on the structure. The guards led her to a wooden platform in the center of the room and gestured for her to kneel. One of them briefly took hold of her hair, but Naruko didn't flinch, her blue eyes locked onto him, calm and unwavering. Listen up. A guard called. We found this intruder wandering near the island. Let it be known, snooping around is not allowed. Let this be a warning to everyone." In the crowd below, a young girl with short red hair and an eye patch looked up at Naruko with concern. She held onto the hand of an older man standing beside her. "Rob-san, who is that girl?" she asked softly. "I don't know, Erza-chan," he replied, eyes narrowing. "She must have been brought here recently. We can't let them treat her like this. We have to do something," Erza whispered urgently. "But what if things go badly again?" Rob responded, thinking back to the last time they had tried to resist. "I can't just stand here and watch," Erza said with determination, breaking away from the crowd. She rushed forward, grabbing a nearby staff from one of the guards and raising it defiantly. "Let her go," she shouted. Naruko looked up, surprised but moved by the courage of the small girl. She could see guards turning toward Erza, advancing with uncertainty. "I have to help her," Naruko thought, her spirit rising. Elsewhere in the tower, a quiet boy with blue hair sat alone in a small room, his head low and thoughts deep. A strange mark ran from his forehead down his cheek. As he raised his head, a curious smile played on his lips. "Dragon Slayer." Back in the chamber, Naruko's eyes widened as a whisper echoed in her mind, mysterious and powerful. The guards were nearing Erza, but Naruko was no ordinary girl. Her moment was coming. Naruko waited patiently, observing as a guard to her left raised a gleaming sword, preparing to strike. But the opportunity never came. The blonde swiftly rolled backward, her extended legs striking a second guard behind her in the chest, sending him tumbling from the tower. She quickly ducked under the swing of another sword before delivering a powerful kick to the attacker, sending him over the edge as well. Rising to her feet, Naruko raised her fists and yanked her arms apart with force, snapping the iron chains binding her. "Much better," said the blonde with a confident smile, her eyes settling on the last remaining guard. The guard, trembling with fear, turned to flee but stumbled near the edge and slipped, disappearing from sight. Naruko glanced toward the far wall, where a crowd of onlookers and guards stood in stunned silence. Taking a deep breath, a glowing yellow magic seal formed in front of her mouth. "Lightning Dragon's Roar," she shouted. A powerful stream of lightning surged forward, crashing into the wall and blasting open a large passage. Debris scattered across the floor, and the prisoners quickly seized the opportunity to run. The guards tried to regain control, but the captives stood together, overwhelming their oppressors amidst the chaos. From her vantage point on the tower, Naruko leapt down toward a group of guards threatening a young red-haired girl. Lightning surged around her clenched fist as she called out once more. "Lightning Dragon's Brick Break." Her lightning-imbued strike sent the first guard hurtling backward. She spun, landing a roundhouse kick on a second opponent, followed by a solid punch to a third. In moments, she had cleared the area and crouched beside the young girl. "What's your name?" Naruko asked kindly. The girl, slightly confused but relieved, responded, "Erza. Erza Scarlet." "Well, Erza, I think it's time you lead everyone to their freedom," said Naruko, a warm smile lighting up her face. Erza nodded with newfound determination and dashed into the fray. Naruko turned back, lightning crackling around her as more guards charged toward her. Drawing her arms close, she prepared another attack. "Light always prevails," she whispered, then lifted both arms high. "Lightning Dragon Skylight." Dozens of glowing magical seals appeared near the ceiling, releasing a stunning barrage of light energy beams. The room shook with energy as guards were sent reeling in all directions. Suddenly, new magical blasts streaked through the air, dark energy orbs launched by enemy mages who had joined the fray. The escaping captives were in danger once again. Some froze, their courage faltering. From across the room, Erza saw it happening. They had come so far, they couldn't stop now. "No. Don't give up. We have to stand strong, for each other," she shouted, striking down a nearby guard with a sword she had reclaimed. One of the dark mages focused on Erza, clearly seeing her as a leader of this rebellion. A glowing seal formed between his hands as he launched a bolt of magical energy straight at her. Rob, Erza's mentor, saw the attack and leapt into action, stepping between her and the spell. "Erza-chan, always hold on to hope," he said softly, a gentle smile on his face. Erza's eyes widened at his words, but before the spell could hit, two hands pulled them both aside. Naruko, breathing heavily but determined, had intervened just in time. "That was brave of you, Oji-san," Naruko said with respect. "But your guidance will be needed when everyone is finally free." Rob, stunned by Naruko's strength and compassion, nodded in silent agreement. "Erza, moved by Rob's selfless act, stepped forward, emotion burning in her heart. A pink magical seal formed around her as she raised her arms. Steel and iron weapons scattered on the ground began to float, drawn to her energy and focus. Sword magic, Naruko whispered, impressed. With a powerful cry, Erza launched the weapons, directing them with precision. The guards and mages found themselves disarmed and overwhelmed, their hold over the captives broken as the tide turned. Still breathing hard, Erza seemed entranced by her own awakening power. She then turned and sprinted toward the prison cells. Rob, recognizing her intent, quickly grabbed Naruko's arm. "She's going to set the rest of them free," he said. "My dear, I can't thank you enough for what you've done here today. But Erza still needs protection. She's heading to the prison where her friend Jelal is still being held." "Don't worry, Oji-san. I'll protect her," said Naruko with confidence. Without hesitation, Naruko set off after Erza, following the magical energy that now radiated from her. She moved swiftly through the labyrinthine corridors, her steps light but purposeful. Up ahead, Erza had already reached the prison. With a determined cry, she blasted the cell door open and stepped inside. There, seated calmly in the center of the room, was a blue-haired boy, Jelal. "Jelal, we've made it. The guards have been taken care of. We can finally leave this place," Erza exclaimed, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. Jelal's eyes narrowed, a cold smirk spreading across his face. In one sudden motion, he seized Erza's hand and gripped her throat. "Don't you see, Erza? Freedom is a fantasy for the powerless. The world demands order, an order that only I can bring." "Jelal." Erza struggled, trying to pull away. Suddenly, a golden flash shot through the room. Naruko arrived, her eyes filled with fierce determination. She reached out and pried Jelal's hand away from Erza, hurling him across the room with force. He landed hard, now looking up into Naruko's piercing blue gaze. "So, you're the one who brought me here?" Naruko asked, standing tall. "You're asking the wrong question, Dragon Slayer," Jelal responded. "You brought yourself here." Strange red patterns shimmered in his right eye as he spoke. "What's happened to you, Jelal?" Erza cried, distressed. "I've discovered the truth, Erza," he said passionately. "This world cries out for guidance, and I've seen the way forward, through the teachings of Zeref, the most powerful sorcerer of our time." "You're blinded by promises you don't understand," Naruko replied firmly. "You're playing with forces that could spiral out of control." Jelal laughed, his voice echoing unnervingly. "Zeref will return, and with him, true balance." Naruko let go of him, and he dropped to the ground, chuckling to himself. Erza stood frozen, tears trailing down her cheek as she looked at the person she once called a friend. Naruko placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Let's go, Erza. Oji-san asked me to protect you, we need to leave." "Jelal," Erza whispered, torn by emotion. "Go, Erza. Leave this place. You don't belong here anymore," Jelal shouted, his expression cold. Heavy-hearted, Erza turned away. Naruko retrieved her white leather jacket and secured her weapons and sword before joining Erza. The two quickly returned to the central chamber, where Rob welcomed them with open arms. "Thank you for protecting her, my dear." "I never caught your name," Rob said warmly. Naruko smiled. "Naruko. Naruko Uzumaki." "Well, Naruko, thank you for everything you've done," Rob said with gratitude. "It's no trouble, Oji-san. But we should get moving," Naruko responded. Together, they made their way to the hole Naruko had made earlier and escaped through it to a small boat waiting at the shoreline. Once on land, the freed captives scaled the cliffs and vanished into the thick forest. Rob, Erza, and Naruko remained behind briefly to share their final goodbyes. "Naruko, how can we ever repay you?" Rob asked. Naruko gave a bright smile. "Think of it as a gift, Oji-san. If we meet again, we'll share stories over something nice to drink." "I'd like that," Rob replied with a chuckle. Naruko then pulled a necklace from around her neck, a beautiful purple crystal strung on a cord. She placed it gently around Erza's neck. "My master gave this to me when I began my training. He said it was a soul crystal, a very old form of magic. I've worn it to keep his memory close. But now, I want you to have it, to remember that today, you stood for freedom." Erza stared in wonder at the crystal. "Will I ever see you again, Naruko-san?" she asked, her voice soft. "Someday, Erza-chan. What are your dreams?" Naruko asked with a gentle smile. "To join Fairy Tail," Erza replied without hesitation. "Then pursue your dream, Erza. Grow stronger, follow your path, and we'll cross paths again, Naruko said. She was caught off guard as Erza suddenly hugged her tightly. Thank you, Naruko. Thank you, she whispered. Naruko returned the hug, then took a step back. She shook hands with Rob and turned toward the forest, ready to continue her journey. Do you think we'll see her again, Rob-san? Erza asked, clutching the crystal tightly. Rob watched Naruko disappear into the distance. Oh, I believe we will, Erza-chan. I truly do. Meanwhile, Naruko smiled to herself as she walked into the fading light of the evening sun. One day, perhaps, she would join a guild and find a place to belong. But for now, there was still a world to explore. And where shadows gathered, light would always rise to meet them. Even the smallest flame can grow into a beacon that shines against the darkness. It had been 6 months since the rescue of the captured individuals from that distant island off the coast. Since then, Naruko had continued her travels around the kingdom of Fiore, taking up various jobs for a modest profit. Her hair had grown out during this time, once again framing her face with small bangs. The blonde was currently whistling a cheerful tune as she strolled through a lush, green forest, sunlight filtering through the trees above. Naruko reached the edge of the forest when a sudden shout from a woman broke the peaceful silence, causing her to stop in her tracks. The woman, dressed in a maid's outfit, was walking quickly along the path, calling out a name. Lucy, Lucy, where are you? She shouted, cupping her hands around her mouth. Are you all right, miss? Naruko asked, stepping closer to the woman. The maid turned, surprised by Naruko's sudden appearance. Oh, yes. The young miss of the family has run away. Her father is terribly worried about her. Could you help me look for her? She asked. Of course. Do we know which way she went? Naruko replied. The last anyone saw of her, she was heading into the forest, the maid said. Naruko nodded. Don't worry. I'll find her for you, she said, heading back into the forest in the direction the maid had indicated. Naruko moved swiftly through the forest, her senses alert as she followed the faint traces of magic that lingered in the air. Soon, she reached a peaceful pond, surrounded by beautiful pink and blue flowers, with rocks scattered along the water's edge. Ripples gently spread across the surface of the water, created by a pair of small legs dangling from the edge. A young girl in a pink dress, with blonde hair held back by a clip adorned with 2 blue stones, was sitting there, a single tear sliding down her cheek. I miss you, Mama, the girl whispered softly. Hey there, Naruko called, stepping cautiously toward the water's edge, careful not to startle the young girl. Did my father send you? The girl asked, not at all surprised that someone had come to find her. It seemed like every time she ran away, someone eventually found her. Naruko smiled and sat down cross-legged on the ground at the water's edge. No, he didn't. I was actually traveling through the forest when I came across a woman looking for you and calling your name, Naruko explained. Yasmin-chan. The girl exclaimed, her eyes widening at the mention of her worried friend and servant. I didn't catch her name, but I did learn yours. It's Lucy, right? Naruko asked. The young girl nodded, then turned back to the water, pulling her knees to her chest and wrapping her arms around them. So, what's your name? Lucy asked. Naruko. Naruko Uzumaki, she answered. Lucy smiled slightly. The fish cake? She asked. Naruko raised an eyebrow, amused. Maelstrom, actually, she replied with a chuckle. Lucy giggled. So, if my father didn't send you, then why did you come? Why would you help me? She asked. Because we all get lost sometimes, Naruko began, her expression turning thoughtful. When the world feels overwhelming, like you're drowning in loneliness, or trapped in a never-ending cycle of pain, it's easy to feel invisible. I know what that feels like, Lucy. And when you're lonely, you just need to find someone, and you'll never be alone again. Naruko picked up a flower that was floating across the pond, holding it gently in the palm of her hand. She waved her hand over the flower, and when she opened her hand again, the flower was vibrant and blooming. In times of need, you must seek out a friend, Naruko said, offering the flower to Lucy. Lucy watched in awe. How did you do that? She asked. Naruko smiled. With magic, she said softly, adding a playful whisper for effect. Wow, Lucy murmured, enchanted. Naruko handed Lucy one of the flowers. So, what are your plans, Lucy? What do you hope to achieve? She asked. I want to be a mage and see the world, to discover all it has to offer, Lucy said, looking at the beautiful flower in her hands. Then you know what you have to do, Naruko replied with a smile. You must go out and grab your dream, Lucy. Or they'll just remain dreams, nothing more. Naruko stood up and extended a hand to Lucy. Maybe we should go find Yasmin-san. She's really worried about you. I'm sure she is, Lucy said, standing as well. Together, they walked back along the forest path and soon reached the edge, where Yasmin was waiting for them. Oh, Lucy-chan, you're okay, Yasmin exclaimed, rushing forward and enveloping the girl in a tight hug before releasing her and turning to Naruko. I can't thank you enough for bringing her back safely, she said gratefully. Naruko waved a hand dismissively. No need to thank me, Yasmin-san. I'm just glad Lucy is all right. Yasmin nodded. Once again, thank you. But we must be getting back to the house, she said, taking Lucy's small hand in hers. Bye, Fishcake. Lucy called, giggling as she waved at Naruko. Naruko stopped in her tracks and once again narrowed her eyes comically before she waved her own goodbye and continued on her way, staring down at the blue flower. It was a reminder of a soul not unlike her own, once lonely and searching for recognition, until that one person came along with a simple message, to fight for your dreams and always follow your heart. Lucy smiled, looking at her own flower. She would take Naruko's words to heart. She was pleased to have met someone who truly understood how she felt. Even if Naruko's name was after a food product, Lucy knew in her heart they would meet again someday. Where, she didn't know, but it was sure to be a fun time. Fishcake. Some weeks later, after her chance meeting in the forest, Naruko continued on her travels and reached a tower known as Magnolia. She currently sat in a cafe, sipping on a cup of tea after completing a simple delivery mission for a client in the next town over. Finishing her cup, she paid and stepped away from the cafe. Naruko thought she would explore the town a little before retreating to the outskirts to train and keep her skills sharp. After exploring the town, the vibrant spirit of the markets, the beauty of the gardens, and the kind nature of its people impressed Naruko. She had made her way to a clearing in the forest beyond the town, a safe distance to practice without attracting attention. Naruko removed her coat and t-shirt, standing in her combat pants and boots, exposing her toned and athletic torso to the warm breeze that blew through the area. The sun hung high in the midday sky without a cloud in sight. Naruko then cycled rapidly through well-practiced katas, punches, kicks, and acrobatic moves, designed to devastate an opponent and any stray trees that happened to be in the way of her foot or fist. Her eyes widened as she sensed an immense amount of magical energy hidden in the shadows beyond her training area. You can step out. I can sense you're hiding, said the blonde, her back to the presence but ready at a moment's notice should action be required. A very short old man stepped out of the shadows, with minimal white hair circling his mostly bald head and a white mustache. His white cloak was tied around his neck and pinned to the left breast with the medal of the 10 wizard saints. As a traveling mage, Naruko's eyes widened at the man who was legendary in the kingdom of Fiore, Makarov Dreyer, guild master of Fairy Tail. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you, my girl, but I was on my way back to my guild and sensed your presence. It was something I've only sensed a few times before, said Makarov with a smile. Makarov Dono, I apologize for my tone. If I had known it was you, I would have been more respectful with my words, said Naruko, not wishing to insult a guild master of Makarov's caliber. The old man laughed. All is forgiven, my girl. But tell me, are you a dragon slayer? Asked Makarov. Naruko nodded. Yes, I'm a dragon slayer of lightning, Makarov Dono. Makarov laughed once more. Please, let's forget the formal titles. It makes me feel old. What's your name, my girl? He asked. Naruko. Naruko Uzumaki. Makarov nodded and regarded the blonde girl with a curious expression. He had listened to stories from a young red-haired girl named Erza, who, having recently joined the guild, regaled the old master with stories of a blonde girl who had rescued her and her friends from a difficult situation. So, you're the Naruko? Murmured the old master. I'm sorry, Master Makarov, but what do you mean by the Naruko? Questioned Naruko. I have heard many stories from one of my young guild members, a young girl by the name of Erza, explained Makarov. Naruko's eyes widened. Erza-chan, she whispered. That was an extraordinary thing you did, Naruko, to put your own life on the line to protect those in dire need. You know, those are the kinds of examples I set for my children, who will become the future of Fairy Tail. I think you would be an excellent addition, said the master. Naruko was shocked. Here she was, standing in front of the guild master of the most powerful guild in all of Fiore, and she was being invited to join its ranks. She was almost speechless, wondering what she had done to deserve such an honor. But Master Makarov, what have I done to deserve such an invitation? Asked the blonde. Makarov smiled, happy to have this chance meeting with someone he sensed had a pure heart and selflessness. Just as Erza had explained, Naruko was someone who the younger generation could look up to, someone who could guide them on the correct path. My child, you proved your worthiness with what you did for Erza-chan. Those are the traits I look for in all potential guild members, that they can guide the younger generation forward and lead by example, explained Makarov. Naruko nodded, still in shock over the events of the day. I would like to accept your most gracious offer, Master Makarov. However, I was wondering if I could defer my acceptance for a year. There are a few things I would still like to learn before joining, she said, hoping the master would understand. Makarov laughed. I understand, Naruko-chan. You have exactly 1 year, any more than that, and I'll tell Erza-chan, and she'll drag you back herself. Naruko laughed. I understand, Gramps, Naruko replied, dropping her polite tone for a second, much to Makarov's surprise and amusement. Makarov turned to leave, leaving the blonde to her training as the guild master disappeared back into the forest, a smile gracing his wrinkled skin. This would make Erza-chan very happy. From the moment he had sensed Naruko's magical essence, he knew she needed to join the guild. Even if the offer also extended to adding support in managing his somewhat unruly children and their destructive tendencies. Later that evening, with the full moon at her back, Naruko stared out over the night lights of Magnolia. Her bright blue eyes focused on the Fairy Tale Guild, one she had promised and been invited to join. So, with one final glance, she turned on her travels once more. But she would return stronger and ready to join the ranks of Fairy Tale. From a window of her room in the guild dormitories, a young redhead could have sworn she saw a blonde figure standing atop a hill in the distance. Her hand gripped the purple crystal that hung around her neck, and she smiled, wondering what the person who had given her that necklace as a gift was doing. I hope you are well, Naruko-chan. We will meet again someday, thought the redhead, once again staring out in the distance, illuminated by the full moon. Little did Erza know that would be sooner than she thought. Dear YouTube family. That's all for now. I truly appreciate your support. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.